Welcome to this Creative Instinct podcast production made for the Cambridgeshire Recovery Service, one of a series made by people navigating their recovery journey, driven by people who have been there and recognise the way.
So I ended up going cold turkey. I thought I'll stop everything and see what happens. I went down to A&E after a couple of days and said, look, I'm in acute opiate withdrawal. I'm really not well. Can you give me something to help with the symptoms? I'll be okay. I just need something to help me cope with the sweats and the vomiting and the diarrhea and the muscle cramps and the insomnia. And they said, well, yes, but we can't give you anything. You have to go through Change, Grow, Live. And so eventually, after another week and a bit, I got an appointment through for an online welcome group via Zoom. Which I thought would be a complete waste of time, and so I thought, well, if I don't turn up to it, I won't get the methadone, which is what I was aiming for at the time. I thought I won't be getting my methadone. I'll have, embarrassed myself at the hospital for nothing. I'd better do this, and so I sat and stared at the screen for a bit, and this very strange woman popped up on the screen and started cracking jokes and just generally being sort of quirky and very hard to explain, actually. What did she do? She was very authentic. That was the thing that really hit me, that I was so used to dealing with false people who really were, fundamentally, there was no integrity to them. They'd sold out in a very deep way, and suddenly I was listening to somebody that actually believed what they were saying and seemed to be competent, and I believe she hinted that she had some kind of personal experience of her own, with sort of substance misuse, and she was funny. Like, she made me laugh for the first time in nearly a decade, and I thought, okay, well, so there's one person at least who's managed to stop doing what I was doing, and they look like they're having an okay life. That's interesting, and I think that was probably the sort of the planting of the seed that maybe it was possible for me to recover. And so once I'd gone through the process of being put on a prescription, which I didn't take methadone in the end, I opted for Espranor, which has a much higher success rate but is much less abusable. But yeah, so I once I'd got through the medical side of things, I was invited to once a week. There was a church hall where people got together and drank cups of tea and talked. And I thought, that sounds like hell on earth. I don't like people. I don't want to be around a bunch of people who I don't know, almost certainly won't like, and also will remind me constantly of what I've just given up, which was like the one answer I had to like a unbearable existence, and somehow I decided to stop it. I thought, this is like the stupidest thing I could possibly do, but I went anyway, and I met somebody who worked there as a volunteer, who had a very similar story to mine in terms of the substances they were using, and they were clean and they were funny and healthy and enjoying life. And I thought, oh shit, like there's not just one, like it's actually doable. And it's doable by people like me, which I always assumed that like maybe some people could get off drugs, but not me, because I had no self-control at all. Like, I used to climb in people's dealers. I used to climb in their windows at night and wake them up to sell me drugs. Like, I couldn't stop. So I thought, well, there's no way I could stop. Like, maybe some other people could, but no chance for me. And then suddenly I was confronted with people that said, oh no, I was an absolute fiend. Like, it's a minor miracle that I stopped. And so I suppose just gradually I realised that that there was like a pathway out of the pit I'd dug myself into, and so I spent a couple of years really giving more and more of my time, my spare time, which I had lots of, because instead of spending every waking hour thinking about drugs, getting drugs, taking drugs, I had nothing to do, so I had lots of spare time, and I gave as much time as I could to volunteer, to make cups of tea, stack chairs, that kind of thing to start with, and then I did some training, and I was able to sort of do a little bit more to help people, mostly just talking to people, I guess. And part of the training that I was able to take, part of the training for the voluntary work that I ended up doing focused on looking after yourself as well as other people, and I found it very helpful because it talked about how to make sure that you had people around you to support you, how to safely manage sort of strong emotions by making sure there are people that you can talk things through with, and that you have people where if you suddenly stop talking to them, they know that's a warning sign, and maybe something's wrong, maybe not, but someone will probably come and check on you. And I sort of discovered partly through training and partly just through how I was treated by other people, that it wasn't normal to go through life being completely self-reliant and needing nobody. That actually a lot of people were okay with having a bit of a support network, and people that helped them deal with difficult times, which was like, it was not something I'd ever done, and it felt very awkward, but that was okay because there were plenty of other people who were also not very good at doing that, and clunky and awkward and embarrassed. And so yeah, that was a whole set of skills that I acquired very late in life, and I think it was probably that helped me rewire myself, however you want to put it, because I was I wasn't afraid of myself anymore. You know, I was able to manage whatever mental state I would end up in. I could deal with it because when I couldn't deal with it, there were other people that could help me. Whereas for the majority of my life, past a certain intensity, I couldn't cope with negative emotion, and I, you know, getting blotto was really my only coping mechanism. And so, yeah, like I gradually, over quite a short period though, I became more and more able to regulate my emotional state and talk about how I was feeling, and do the same for other people. You know, be a listening ear for other people, which is also beneficial to me. I quite regularly go and speak to police recruits, so young police recruits, like very early 20s, who right at the end of their training and just about to go off into the real world. And me and a few other people talk to them about just our experiences of, you know, depending on who's speaking, addiction, homelessness, interactions with the police, that kind of thing, just so that they understand that that people in addiction are just people. They're not, you know, they're not a stereotype. They're not addicts. Well, they might be, but, you know, they're very, very complex, and you can't really assume anything just because you happen to have arrested them for possession or what have you. That, you know, people can end up there through all sorts of convoluted means, and I found that it's a really rewarding thing, actually, to talk to young, bright-eyed, enthusiastic trainees who hopefully will go off and become successful police officers. But also, it's really helped me to tell my story again and again and again. It's helped me piece things together in my own mind, because a lot of the last 10 plus years has been quite disjointed, and my mental health has not been great throughout, really. So it's helped me to construct a narrative of what's happened and what's important, and you know, what I've learned. And it's very subjective, but it's my story, so I can tell it how I want. And I think that's actually been a key part of me becoming stable. I once I stopped using, I never went back to it. That was never an issue. But the real worry for me was, like, could I have a life that's meaningful enough that I don't think, fuck it, and just jump off a building, you know? And it turns out, yes, I can. But I think it's helped me. It's helped me to have a story I can tell myself as well as other people, and, you know, I feel like I'm of some use. It helps me keep a positive self-image. If I can look at what I do day to day and think, yes, that's actually of use to somebody else. You know, like, your life has value. So yeah, I guess I gained some degree of control over myself that I didn't think I would ever have. I think I changed so completely as a person over that 2-year period that I wouldn't have recognised myself back then when I was in active addiction. I wouldn't recognise myself now at all. Everything about me is different. You know, I grew up fundamentally a pessimist, and now I'm extremely optimistic. I really didn't think that there was any hope at all for me. You know, like I was just like watching the clock, waiting for death. You know, like literally, you know, like waking up every day, waking up in tears because I hadn't died in my sleep. You know, and yet here I am, and you know, this is the high point in my life. You know, things have never been better, and it really makes me think sometimes that, you know, I very easily could have made different choices and not been here now, and I would have missed, you know, the most important chunk of my life so far. Even though I wasn't looking, and it was the last thing on my mind. Suddenly, out of nowhere, I met somebody, and we hit it off. And because I wasn't an emotional basket case anymore, we were able to get to know each other quite deeply, quite quickly. She is also in recovery, and so she has a past and issues, and so do I. And it turns out we support each other, and we complement each other in that we have different flaws, and where I fall short, she generally will pick up the slack, and vice versa. And so over the space of 3 years, I think 3.5 years, I went from very recently homeless, heroin and crack addict, acutely suicidal, over a 3.5 year period. I went from that to being fairly well adjusted, pretty happy with life, and with a fantastic partner, and I've now got a year-old son, which I never thought would happen. I mean, I'm in my mid-40s, so I thought that ship had sailed, but no, I have a little boy now, and it's the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me, and I've managed to produce a child, and his parents are stable and happy and supportive, and I feel like I've achieved something, because it's one child that hopefully won't come from a terribly broken background, and at least as far as I'm able, he will get the emotional support that I didn't have, and I think to a great extent his mother didn't get either. You know, we understand the things that made us particularly vulnerable to addiction, and we'll probably screw them up in 1,000 other ways, but we definitely won't do that. We'll make sure that, you know, he is able to talk about how things are, and, you know, if he's struggling, hopefully he'll have, you know, friends, family, support network. So, you know, fingers crossed, we aren't just producing another badly adjusted future addict. That was definitely part of the lack of interest in having kids for me. That, you know, I had a very negative opinion of the world and people in general, and I thought, you know, it seems unfair to churn out another child who's going to have a life just as miserable as mine. No, thank you. You know, and fingers crossed we haven't done that. He's really happy, and it's definitely all the motivation I need to stay upright and sober. Before I got clean, I would have said that the high point in my life was somewhere in my mid-20s, where I was professionally very successful, well recognised, very well rewarded for it, well compensated, and on paper I was doing very well, but that's pales. That's as nothing compared to the satisfaction I get now from watching my son learn to point at something he wants me to pick up, or roll a football towards me and expect me to roll it back to him. You know, like, they're not even in the same conceptual universe. Nothing else has actually been of any importance at all. Like, when you stand it up against healthy, happy relationship and child. So even though it was the last thing I was looking for, I think it was always what I needed. I just had to destroy myself and rebuild myself so that I was able to be a fit parent, I think.
Your story can help others, and we'd love to hear it. Wherever you've been, wherever you are, how you got there, whatever, it's up to you.